Okay, see, here's the problem. I don't know if it's really a problem. Ladies, you've got two of these, right? Big X chromosomes. And we guys have one of these and one scrawny little Y. Nicole, you all have more chromosome material than we do. Does that mean you're more equal? Superior? Maybe. I don't know. But okay, well, biologically speaking, I'm not talking culturally. I'm talking, or sociologically, I'm talking biologically, females are superior. Maybe not superior. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. You're saying, yeah, right. Preach on, Mr. Ruhl, aren't you? Yep. Now, strictly biologically speaking, now let's think about it for a minute. Actually, it goes way back to the very beginning. The sperm cells that contain an X chromosome are just a little bit bigger and swim just a little faster and live just a little longer than the sperm cells that contain a Y chromosome. Sorry, guys. That's the way it is. And then, fertilized eggs that have two X chromosomes, they tend to survive embryo development at a little bit higher rate than fertilized eggs that are XY. It's like, man, this isn't fair. And then, now you don't see it so much today with modern medicine, but like way back in pioneer days, newborn babies, a lot of times they didn't survive. In pioneer days, they didn't survive their first year of life. If you ever go into an old cemetery, it can be pretty sad. If you read the inscriptions on the tombstones, you see a lot of infant so-and-so, infant Smith, infant, because back 200, 300 years ago, life was hard. In some cases, they wouldn't even name a baby until it reached its first birthday. And females were a little bit more likely to survive that first year than males. And at every stage in life, it seems like females out-survive males at every stage in life. Who has, with new drivers, who has the highest insurance rates? Guys. Because statistically speaking, it's guys who are in accidents more than female drivers. I know, guys, it's hard to swallow. It's like, oh man, what is it? Life is against us. And if you go into like a retirement home, the majority, usually most of the people, the elderly people in a retirement home are what? Females. So it seems like, and you go through childhood. The girls learn to pay attention in kindergarten class before the boys do. They learn to color and stay between the lines before the boys do. They learn to listen in class before the boys do. Even before kindergarten, generally speaking, they sit up before we do. They hold their own bottle before we do. They do everything before we do. Generally. There are exceptions, okay? But, guys, take heart. We usually die before they do. Okay. So, ladies, you don't have us beat in every category. That's a terrible thing to. Anyway, enjoy life. Life is good, right? Life is good. Now, so this is this problem. See, girls have two big X chromosomes. We have only one. Can I tell you a little story about a scientist named Murray Barr?
Yes.
Have you guys ever heard of Murray Barr? B-A-R-R? Okay, let me show you what he did. This was back in the late 1940s. So this was before I was born. Yes. Now, Murray Barr was studying under the microscope the brain cells of cats. So I'm going to try to draw, it's a rough, simple diagram, brain cell of a cat under the microscope. All right, there's the nucleus. Okay, and this is the brain cell under the microscope of a female cat. You know that symbol, right? Female. Okay, and he also looked at the brain cells of male cats, tomcats. Here's a brain cell under the microscope of a male. There's the nucleus. And he noticed if he stained them with a certain kind of blue stain, that in the nucleus of the body cells, in this case the brain cells of the female cats, there was a dark, dense, staining spot inside the nucleus that was not present in the nucleus of the brain cells from the male cats. You with me? And Murray Barr said to himself, okay, I'm using some artistic license here. I don't know if he really said this. I gotta embellish the story. Murray Barr said to himself, that's curious. Why do only brain cells from female cats have this dark spot in the nucleus and the males don't? Let me try some other cells from the cat's body. So he put skin cells under the microscope, okay, and stained them the same way, and he saw that in the nuclei of the skin cells from the female cats, there was that dark spot again showing up inside the nucleus. But it was not present in the nuclei of the male cats. He said, this is getting curiouser and curiouser. So guess what? He looked at human cells, other mammals. Guess what? Same thing. Same thing. Now, I used to do a lab, but I don't do it in genetics anymore because people started to freak out. Okay? I used to do a lab in genetics class where I would have people take a toothpick and gently scrape the inside lining of their cheeks and put that on a microscope slide with a drop of this particular blue stain to test for the presence of that dark spot in the nucleus. You know why I don't do that lab anymore? What?
People think their cells
Wasn't there?
Girls are supposed to see a dark spot, right?
They don't see a dark spot.
Yeah, there were a few girls who didn't see a dark spot, and they got worried, and they said, Mr. Ruhl, girls are supposed to have a dark spot in the nucleus. I don't see one. And I tried to tell them, and this is the truth, I tried to tell them, this is not a hospital or research quality lab with research quality microscopes and research quality chemicals. You may not see that spot in the nucleus of your cells that you know is supposed to be in there, okay? And they took that, but then I could tell they were still thinking about it. Like, I'm a girl, but I don't have a dark spot in my nuclei. What's wrong with me? And on the other hand, there were some boys who thought they noticed a dark spot in their nuclei. And then they were worried. Okay, and I tried to tell them it's not research quality equipment or chemicals. Don't worry, it's only for educational purposes. And after a year or so of that, I decided I'm just not going to do that lab anymore. It just makes people get upset. Usually, if a guy saw a spot, chances are it was a bacterial cell superimposed on the nucleus that picked up a lot of the stain. Okay, and he thought he was seeing this spot. But anyway, those spots were called Barr bodies in honor of Murray Barr. They're called Barr bodies. Have you guys ever heard of Barr bodies? I think you have. Now the big question was, what is that spot in the nucleus of the body cells that come from females? Mammals we're talking. What is that spot? All right. Now along comes Mary Lyon, 1961. she says, I think I have an idea, and it's called the Lyon hypothesis. And she really didn't say that. She came up with an idea. Other people called it the Lyon hypothesis. She says, I think I know what that dark spot is in the nucleus. Does anybody know what it is? Actually?
Because since we have more chromosome materials that extra that we just didn't use, that was.
You're on the right track. You're on the right track, Isaac.
Was it something that was made because they have extra chromosome material?
You are on the right track. Yeah. Basically, you know what it is? It's one of the, okay, imagine these are the two X chromosomes in a female. The Barr body, as it turns out, Mary Lyon was right, so we don't really call it the Lyon hypothesis anymore. The process is called lyonization. What happens is, in every cell in the female's body, if these are the two X chromosomes, one of them is shut down and turned off and scrunched up. Watch. And when you stain those cells, this crunched up, scrunched up X chromosome appears as a Barr body under the microscope. And it's shut off, it's turned off. You could say that. Quiescent really refers to a nucleus, but this is an inactivated X chromosome. So ladies, in every cell in your body, watch, one of your two X chromosomes is scrunched up. And that cell under the microscope, if stained, would show this dark spot in the nucleus, and it's this scrunched up, inactivated X chromosome. So ladies, in reality, you really only have one working X chromosome in every cell in your body. So there is true equality between the sexes.
How you guys have the wires?
Oh, but the Y doesn't do much except say, make testes.
Okay, it's fair
Well,
play.
it's got a few other genes on it too. But for all intents, I mean, the X chromosome is really big. It's important. It's got thousands of genes on it. Ladies, you do have two of those, but only one of them is working. We guys only have one of those big X's, and it's working. So that's how it works. Does that make sense? So there is true equality. And nature is really efficient. Now this is called dosage compensation. In other words, compensation, making equal the amount of X chromosome material. So boys have one working X, girls have one working X. And it's very efficient. You know, there are some people running around who have 3 X chromosomes. Did you know that? There are some ladies running around who have 3 X chromosomes.
I thought those people like that.
What?
I thought those people like die. Or is that if they only have one and no?
There are some women who have only 1 X. It's called Turner syndrome.
Yeah.
It's one of the conditions
I
you'll
bet you
learn.
die from that.
No, it's.
Can you have one Y?
They do pretty well. Can you have 1 Y?
You have
Yeah,
one.
you have 1 Y.
But I think you said one.
No, can you have one Y? No.
Oh, fertilized eggs that have only a Y?
No, those will die.
That's a good question. They die.
Yeah,
Because if the fertilized egg's missing an X chromosome, remember that's a big chromosome with thousands of genes on it. Those fertilized eggs die very early. Thanks. Okay? So, yeah, Turner syndrome, those are females who have only 1 X.
Yeah, but they do look a little different, right?
They do look a little different. You'll find out the details when we get into the computer tutorial. Yeah, Turner syndrome. But there are ladies running around who have 3 X's, and they don't look any different or act much different than any other females. But how many Barr bodies do you think you might see?
2.
2. Excellent. 2. Females who have 3 X chromosomes, 1, 2. I need another hand. See that hand? That's an X. 1, 2, 3. 2 of them scrunch up and become Barr bodies, scrunch up, leaving 1 working X. So that it's real efficient. Nice job. This dosage compensation, nature is very efficient. In mammals, all the extra X chromosomes except for one scrunch up and become inactive Barr bodies. Yeah.
So, like, you know, like, color blindness is passed on to the X chromosome. So how does your body, like, how does the woman that, like, is it possible, like, since one's turned off, like, that it'd be colorblind? Because their good genes turned off, like,
That's a great question. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's a good question. Now, what I want to deal with, though, let me ask you this. Okay, let's talk about that girl. Let's go back to the girl with Turner syndrome. She has just one X chromosome. What would you expect to see if you looked at her cells?
None.
No Barr bodies. No dark spot.
maybe that's why they got freaked out. Maybe that's why they got freaked out. The girls that couldn't see them with a microscope.
Well, no. If a girl has Turner syndrome, by the time she's in high school, she would know it. Women who have Turner syndrome are shorter than normal, but now if a woman's short, that doesn't mean she has Turner syndrome. Okay? When they reach puberty, their body does not change from a girl's body into a woman's body. They don't sexually mature. Okay? Hips don't widen, breasts don't develop. That's what happens with Turner syndrome. And they don't start a period. Because with Turner syndrome, this one X chromosome, a lot of times they call it XO, the ovaries don't develop fully. And so they don't make estrogen. And so at puberty, they don't sexually mature. Now, I was reading an article not long ago, and it actually kind of made me, it was a feel-good article. It was a scientific article, but when I got through it, it was like a feel-good kind of a thing, because they now have a therapy where young girls who have Turner syndrome can get prescription injections of female hormones, and then their bodies will sexually mature at puberty, so they can look like everybody else going through puberty. You with me? But they can't have children because the ovaries aren't completely developed. And the uterus is not completely developed, so they can't have kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but they get everything else.
Right. Okay. And there are other chromosome disorders that we're going to learn about in this unit.
So do they still develop eggs?
Eggs? No. The ovaries don't develop enough to be able to make eggs. All right. I want to show you when and where the Barr bodies happen, when they form. Okay? Now, you guys, does that picture look familiar?
Yes.
You've seen it like a million times, right?
Thanks.
Something like that. A million times. Okay, you know how it works. Let's pretend that we're looking at a fertilized egg here that has two X chromosomes. So this is destined to be a little girl. Here we are. She's a two-celled embryo, and then she's going to become 4 and then 8. You guys know how this works. 1632. All right, there's the blastocyst. Now, up until this point, in every cell that makes up that blastocyst, there are 2 working X chromosomes. Okay, see them? In every cell nucleus, in that blastocyst. It doesn't happen at the blastocyst stage. What I'm about to show you happens a few days later, like day 12 to 14. But I'll use this picture to kind of help us understand, okay? Here's what happens. In each nucleus, okay, let's look at this cell right here, in that nucleus. Inside that nucleus, one of the 2 X chromosomes, one of the 2, scrunches up and becomes a Barr body. Watch. Okay? You with me? And in the cell right next door, same thing happens. In this cell, same thing happens. in every nucleus of every cell that makes up this early embryo, one of the two X chromosomes scrunches up and becomes inactive. Now, let's pretend that the red one is the one that she got from her dad, and this is the one she got from her mom originally, okay? What's really intriguing to me is from one cell to the next, it's totally random which of the two X chromosomes scrunches up. In each cell, it's random. So, in this cell, it might be the red one that scrunches up. In this cell nucleus, it might be the yellow one that scrunches up. In this one, the yellow, the red, the yellow, the yellow, the red, the red, the red, the yellow, the red. See what I mean? Okay? Does that make sense? From one cell to the next, it's random. So ladies, what's that? You know what that means? Ladies, you are a patchwork. All the cells in your body, patchwork. In about half the cells in your body, the X chromosome that you got from your dad is scrunched up and it's a Barr body. And in the other half of the cells, the X chromosome you got from your mom is scrunched up into that. That makes sense? So you very well could have a patch of cells right here. Okay, Veronica, you could have a patch of cells right here. And in this patch of cells right here, this part of your body, the X chromosome you got from your dad is working. In this patch of cells, the X chromosome you got from your mom is working. And you're like patchwork all over. That's weird. But you can't tell by looking at you, which can't tell. And Isaac, in every single cell in your body, the X chromosome you got from who? Mom is working. So you're not a patchwork. This makes sense? Sort of. Now, I can't look at you, Chloe, and tell which part of your skin, which part of your body has the X chromosome from mom working. Can't tell, but you can tell in cats. Back to Murray Barr. What? The fur color, especially if you're looking at the types of cats that are called calico cats. You see that? Anybody in here have a calico cat? Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever had a calico cat or if you've ever seen one. Okay. They're basic. Now, fur color, the genetics of fur color in cats gets pretty confusing. But they're basic, the basic in this kind of cat, calicos and tortoiseshell, the basic background canvas is white. Okay? And then there's a gene on the X chromosome. One form of the gene makes black, and the other form of the gene makes orange. Well, it's almost Halloween. How appropriate. Okay, so here's how it works in these cats. Bless you.
Thanks.
Do you guys know about the genetics of calico cats?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's say that, I'm going to write here. Okay, there's a female cat in this breed that we call calico. Okay, there are two different alleles. I'll call big B the gene that causes black fur, and little b is the gene that causes orange fur against a basic canvas of white, okay? And so if you have a female cat who has a big B gene on one X chromosome and a big B gene on the other X chromosome, what color would that cat turn out to be? Black. Okay. My voice cracked a little bit. It's not puberty, it's just sinuses, I think. But if you had a cat with a big B gene on one X and a little b gene on the other X. Big B causes black fur, little b causes orange fur. Are you with me? I know it's last period, you gotta kind of sleepy. Here's what happens. When that cat was an embryo, just a few days after the blastocyst stage, in half the cells in her body, this chromosome became inactive, making for orange patches, right? In half the cells in her body, this chromosome became inactive, making for black patches. So you get these random black and orange patches.
How come some of them are white?
Well, and that is on top of a basic, you can kind of think of as a canvas of white that's there to begin with. And so these genes work on top of the genes that are causing the white to begin with.
Now, how come it's a-
Are you guys with me? Does it make sense? Sort of. And it's totally random from one cell to the next in the embryo which of the two X chromosomes scrunches up.
So what about male cats?
Great, we'll get there. We'll get there.
So is it really random, or is there like genes that like determine which ones do like spin check?
That's a good question. As far as we know, it's random. Yeah, as far as we know. Let me go back. I need to show you guys something. Let me show you something here. Okay, if we go back to here, look at this cell. Let's just focus in on this cell right here in that nucleus. Let's say in that nucleus of that cell, the X chromosome from dad scrunched up and became the Barr body. Then, from that point on, every time this cell does mitosis to make more cells, it will faithfully reproduce that same scrunched up chromosome from dad. So it keeps the same scrunched up X chromosome throughout the progeny of that cell right there. Does that make sense? Every time that cell does mitosis, it will faithfully replicate itself, including the particular X chromosome that became inactive. So as a result, someday when this is an adult cat, all the offspring of this one cell here will make like this patch of like black fur. And so that's what's happening here. So you can't see it in humans, but you can see it in these cats, these calico cats. And that's why different ones have different patterns, because it's totally random from one cat to the next. Actually, this was evidence for the lion hypothesis. This was the evidence right here. Experimental evidence.
That's kind of funny. Lion, cats.
Yeah, lion, cat. Murray Barr with his cat brain cells. Now, how about the males? How about the males?
How about them?
How about the males? Now remember, males have an X and a scrawny little Y. So in cats it works the same way as it does in humans. So if you're a male cat in that breed, you're either going to have a black fur gene on your X or an orange fur gene. So you're not going to see any male calico cats. Actually, sometimes a male calico cat will crop up. That's really rare.
How's that even?
If it's a Klinefelter cat. You guys think I'm making this up, don't you?
I need some proof.
There's a condition, another chromosome disorder that you're going to learn about in humans called Klinefelter syndrome. Klinefelter syndrome. And that's where guys have two X's and a Y. Okay? Two X's and a Y. Has anybody ever heard of it?
Would you know?
Yeah, you would know. When you reach puberty, you would know.
Didn't we read about it?
Maybe, I don't know. It's one of the chromosome disorders you'll learn about in this unit. Klinefelter syndrome. Those are guys who have two X's and a Y, If you looked at their cells under the microscope, what would you see?
Two X's and Y.
You'd see a Barr body, right? Because remember, nature has made it so that all the extra X chromosomes scrunch up except leaving one, right? So guys with XXY would show a Barr body under the microscope. Guys who are XXY, when they reach puberty and after, they're going to know probably that they've got it because these are the characteristics. They're usually taller than normal. Now, if a guy's tall, it doesn't mean he has Klinefelter syndrome. That's just one of the characteristics. But the main characteristic that is troublesome for these guys is some of them experience breast development when they reach puberty, which you can imagine can be psychologically tough for them. A genetics professor that I used to work with told me a story about a boy who was in his class, in his genetics class. This was at Ball State University. And the boy had Klinefelter syndrome, but it wasn't officially diagnosed until he was in college. And he was an honors student. And all through college, or all through his growing up years, from puberty on, he confessed to this professor that I knew that he never took his shirt off in public. I mean, after puberty on, he never took his shirt off in public. He would tie ace bandages around his chest to flatten everything down. I never took a shower after PE with the other guys, you know. And he worried about it, and the worry ate him up inside. It's like what's wrong with me? What's happening to me? And finally, when he got to college and he started learning about some of this stuff, he worked up the nerve to go to a doctor, and they did blood tests, and they did the karyotype, made a karyotype, and there they were, by golly, 2 X's and a Y. And they diagnosed him with Klinefelter syndrome. And so what they did then is he underwent mastectomy surgery to reduce the breast size, and they started putting him on a regimen of male hormones, increased the musculature, so to this day he looks like a normal guy. Now, guys with Klinefelter syndrome are sterile. They cannot have kids. They can have a normal sex drive, get married and all that, have a normal relationship with their wife. It's just that they don't form sperm cells properly, and so they can't impregnate their wife. It's called Klinefelter syndrome. There are a few cats who are sometimes born with Klinefelter syndrome. 2 X's and a Y. Okay? Can you see how if you ever see a male cat that's calico, you'll know it's a Klinefelter cat. And it'll be sterile, can't reproduce.
Are there any other health issues that come along with Klinefelter?
Good question. I can't think of any health issues other than they're sterile. Yeah. So, and since the testes are slightly underdeveloped, the estrogens in the body take over, and that's what causes the breast development. But they don't all experience the breast development, which makes it difficult to diagnose sometimes. There have been some speculations that possibly the father of our country, and that sounds kind of ironic. Who was the father of our country? There's been some speculation that George Washington had Klinefelter syndrome.
He had kids though.
No, he didn't have any kids. No,
He seized a lot. I thought he had a daughter that would have seizures.
He married Martha, who already had children. Yeah. But he could not father any children of his own, which it was unheard of for a plantation owner in the 18th century to not father kids. They had a lot of kids in those days. I mean, that's no proof that he had
Why did
cleft.
they get taller?
Pardon?
Why did
Oh, yeah, he was tall.
Why did they get taller?
Why did they get taller? That's a good question. I do not know.
Some guys might actually like
I'm
it.
good.
As long as I don't get,
Actually,
I like being taller.
Yeah.
Like, what's more common, having the two X's and a Y or having three X's?
Great question. That's an easy one to Google. I don't remember the exact comparisons as far as the frequency of those two different conditions. Easy to Google. When you have a chance, Google incidence of XXX, and you'll find it. Incidence of XXY, you'll
I'll
find
make
it.
sure.
What?
I said for the XXX one, I'm gonna make sure I put chromosome at the end.
Yeah, right, yeah. You'd be surprised, whenever here at school, whenever I get online and try to find out stuff for this class, human genetics, it's like blocked, can't go there. What?
that happened to me.
Yeah, trying to look stuff up before, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I was trying to find out some more details about sperm cells the other day.
Mr. Ruhl,
Forget
are you
that.
on restricted internet?
What's that?
Are you on restricted internet?
The school is. Yeah. Now at home, I can find out that stuff for you guys. All right. Any other questions about? Oh, you asked about Caden. You asked about what earlier? Colorblindness or hemophilia?
Yeah, colorblind.
Colorblindness. Okay, let's talk about colorblindness. Red-green colorblindness. Okay, let's change the symbols here and say that this is not black and this is not orange, but big B is normal color vision and little b is color blindness. And we're talking humans now instead of cats. If a female is big B, little b, normal vision dominant to color blindness, you would think by looking at this that she would be normal, right? But it's possible for some females who are heterozygous to have color blindness if by chance, let's just say by chance in her body 80% of the cells contain that chromosome scrunched up. Then she'd probably be somewhat colorblind. That makes sense? That makes sense? I mean, chances are it's going to be 50-50 because there are only 2 X chromosomes in each nucleus of each cell. The chances are throughout her whole body, half the cells are going to have this chromosome working and half of them this. But you could get 70 and 30 instead of 50-50, or maybe 60-40, or 10 and 90. All right, I think this is a good place to stop with this stuff. Okay, now here's the next thing we're going to do. If you'll look down here, bottom of page 4, it says we're supposed to go to the computer tutorial now and answer questions A through J as you work through the lesson. So that means you're going to answer the questions all the way down to the bottom of page 5, and you'll need the headphones. 2 people on a computer, and we can use this one. Now, I know it's been a while since you pulled up a tutorial on those computers. You want to pull up the tutorial that's entitled Cytogenetics.